In addition to the major quests of the Point Lookout DLC, there are a few minor ones. We'll be talking about two today, Plik's Safari and a Spoonful of Whiskey. Tobar the ferryman talked to us briefly about Plik's Safari when we arrived, and he pointed out the location of the Coastal Grotto on our Pip-Boy map. Taking a look at the map, we see that the Coastal Grotto is just south of the wrecked tugboat. So heading there first, we can then follow the coastline south. Almost immediately, we get attacked by a swarm of mirelurks and swamp lurks. When done, we can continue south along the coast, and looking out to sea, we see a few more of those bobbing buoys. Remember from my previous episodes, we learned that these buoys often conceal hidden stashes below the water. Swimming on down, we find an average locked safe with randomized loot inside, including a stash of 3 stealth boys. There's a skeleton lying next to 2 ammunition boxes and a lever-action rifle. But more interestingly and perplexingly, next to this corpse is a T-Rex skeleton. You'll have to forgive me, I had to keep swimming up to the surface to get air, but I could hardly believe my eyes. Is this a dinosaur skeleton? Sure enough, upon closer inspection, it is. It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex skull and body, complete with its stubby little arms. How can we possibly explain this? Well, most of the Tyrannosaurus Rex remains we've found in our world came from the Hill Creek Formation in North America. This formation spans Montana and South Dakota. Now, we have found some specimens outside of this location. T-Rexes have been found in Wyoming and as far away as Saskatchewan. But to my knowledge, we haven't found any on the East Coast. I think it highly unlikely that the skeleton was uncovered by erosion or by natural means. Additionally, we find it sort of placed right here on the surface. Not a bit of it is still embedded in the soil. The only explanation then that I have for this is that it must have been a recent archaeological find that was destined for some sort of museum. Perhaps it was being transferred via boat the day the bombs dropped. The boat was passing through Point Lookout, possibly on the way to the Museum of History in Washington, D.C., to deliver this specimen to be put on display. The vessel capsized or sank after the bombs dropped, dumping the skeleton where we find it today. Now, how the skeleton has survived 200 years uncovered like this underwater without being eaten away by toxic chemicals or erosion, well, I just can't explain that one. At any rate, we can swim back towards the shore to try and find an entrance to this coastal grotto. Along the shore, we see the remains of some sort of campsite. There's a cinder block campfire right next to a bunch of beer bottles, a toolbox, and a game of chess laid out on a chessboard, where we find 1 dose of jet. The fridge is fully stocked with beer and 1 scotch, and this tiny little camp marks the entrance to a small road that goes up the hillside. We can follow the path as it crisscrosses all the way up the rocky face until at last we reach the top. Along the way, we did not find a coastal grotto, no cave entrance, no door, and yet we appear to be right next to this map marker. Where is the coastal grotto? Well, thankfully, due to the wonders of Robco Industries, we can use the compass on our Pip-Boy to try and nudge our way closer to the entrance to this location. This forces us down the side of the rock face until at last we discover it. Well, this can only mean that we're directly above it, but peering down, it still looks like we have a bit of a drop. But if I look closely, I do see a torch on fire. We can do our best to wiggle our way down the rock face without falling to our deaths until... Okay, that wasn't so bad. We landed with minimal damage. And here, we find a security door in the side of this rock face. Well, I looked all around this area just to make sure I wasn't missing the obvious, but no, there's really no path up here. So the only way to enter is to drop from above. Heading inside, we arrive in a tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, we see a ghoul, dressed in blue, sitting in a chair. He's not hostile, so we'll talk with him in a second. To the right, we see a room of some sort behind some bars. This must be the living quarters of that ghoul. He's got a bed to the right, which we can't sleep in. But on his desk, a whole bunch of stuff that we're free to take, including a mini nuke, a big stash of caps, a teeny tiny first aid box, and a journal that we can read. Plik's journal. This journal contains a number of observations and insights specific to hunting and fighting ghouls. We have the option to read the journal or leave it alone. Upon reading it, we get the Ghoul Ecology perk. You have learned to exploit the specific weaknesses of ghouls, and you gain a +5 damage bonus when attacking one. Okay, well, that was easy cool beans. Heading out, we can turn right to talk with this ghoul named Plik.
Welcome to my extraordinary safari. Shall we get you registered?
I don't like the sound of this. I'm out of here.
Your loss, I'm afraid. Come back if you reconsider.
Registered for what, exactly?
Only the finest bit of sport you've ever enjoyed. Once we review the rules and see to a nominal 1,000 caps registration fee, of course.
Tell me more about the safari.
But of course. What would you like to know?
What's the basic idea?
The participants, that's you, assemble in the arena. Once you've made your preparations, signal me with the button inside to begin the hunt. I'll remotely release a group of ferals against which you must defend yourself. Don't worry, I'll make sure there aren't too many loose at one time. You're in for quite a treat, if I do say so myself.
What if we get overwhelmed? How will I get out?
Not an option, I'm afraid. The thrill wouldn't be the same if you knew I'd release you at the first sign of trouble, now would it?
Do you have any weapons for me to use?
Weapons are your own responsibility, ma'am. I'm sure you have your own preferences, after all.
So you round up ghouls for slaughter. Isn't that rather unethical for you?
Have I tried to chew on your skull? Perhaps you've noticed my ability to string words into complete sentences. These ferals are nothing like myself. I'm no more a monster for providing them than you are for slaughtering them.
1,000 caps, though? That seems kind of outrageous.
I've found that price keeps the riffraff out. You aren't riffraff now, are you?
Oh, I'm not riffraff. Sure, here. 1,000 caps. Let's get this show on the road.
That's the spirit, sir. The other participants are waiting, so just press the button inside to let me know when to begin.
Now, yes, 1,000 caps is a lot of money, but he's pretty upfront and honest about what to expect. He wasn't shy to tell us exactly how dangerous this is gonna be. Now, if we want, we can try to pickpocket our money back, or we can kill him to get it back. But if we kill him, we won't be able to do the safari in the future, so... well, I'm just gonna chalk this up to 1,000 caps lost. Hopefully the rewards will be worth it. Heading through the door, we go down a path until we see a big cage to the south. Inside, we see a bunch of feral ghouls, but they're neutral. Looks like these are the ghouls that he has caught in preparation for this big safari. Though I suppose we should use safari rather loosely. This is more like a battle royale. We can turn northwest to walk across a rickety bridge to arrive at an elevated platform. This platform is lit by construction lights powered by noisy nearby generators, and we get to meet a few of the fellows who will join us on our safari today. First, we find a man in a rather dapper suit wearing a Confederate hat named Jacob Humboldt.
Mr. Plik's really outdone himself this time.
Sounds like he's done this before.
I didn't come here to make friends. So you're number 3. Well, let's get this thing going.
Well, Rip Smithy sure is a friendly fellow, isn't he? Let's just hope that these fellows are capable with their weapons. Before we begin, we can explore our surroundings. There are a few walkways leading away from this platform, and they're lined by traps. We see a collection of bear traps on the ground near one corner, and as we go to explore the next, Rip Smithy gives us some friendly advice.
Try not to fall. Nothing down there but dark and rads.
Thanks, Smithy. We see a ramp going down with a bunch of irradiated barrels down there. Off to the west, we see a big pile of brain fungus stacked against a shack wall. So I'm guessing that those are the entrances that the ghouls will use to attack. So it looks like there's no way out, aside from the way that we came in. There is nothing left to do now but to flip the switch to activate the Battle Royale. And as soon as we flip the switch, we get attacked from all sides by swamp ghouls. Rip Smithy and Jacob Humboldt dive into the fray, using their lever-action rifles with precision to pick off these ghouls one by one. I didn't want either of these two men to die, so I tried to do my best to capture the attention of as many of these ghouls as possible. The warning buzzer still buzzes, but we don't see any more ghouls. Also, where's Mr. Humboldt? I didn't see him die. I don't see his body anywhere, but where did he go? We find the final ghoul when we head down the ramp. And then the buzzers go off. Now, I turned this place upside down looking for Mr. Humboldt, but I couldn't find him, nor did I see any big piles of ash. I replayed this footage and watched it carefully, and I didn't kill him, so I don't know exactly what happened to him. If he survives, however, he doesn't have anything new to say. He says the exact same thing that he said when we first met him. However, if Rip Smithy survives, he says,
You're welcome, by the way. You know, for saving your ass.
What a charming fellow. We can then go around and loot each of these ghouls, but we certainly don't make 1,000 caps worth of bottle caps back. And when done, we can head back to speak with Plik.
Tremendous showing! I do hope the experience was worth every cap. Let's commemorate your first safari with a token of our friendship, shall we? This axe was misplaced by one of my other patrons. She won't be needing it anymore, and it's a weapon of gruesome distinction. Enjoy it.
With that, we get the Dismemberer axe, and we complete Plik's safari. Hey, that was fun. Can we do it again?
Your enthusiasm is flattering, but I'll need time to round up more fodder. Could I trouble you to return in a day or two?
All right, I'll be gone.
As you please.
We can repeat this quest as often as we want. However, it costs 1,000 bottle caps each time, and the next time we do this, neither Jacob nor Rip will be there to help us. So we're on our own. The Dismemberer axe looks identical to the other axes we find here in Point Lookout, but its stats are much better. Instead of 20 damage, it has 25 damage, bringing its DPS up to 35.7. It also has the ability to dismember enemies and cause them to explode into a big bloody gore pile without having the Bloody Mess perk. When it performs this feat and dismembers enemies, it has a chance to restore 5 action points, making it a pretty useful tool for melee characters who depend upon VATS. The next quest we'll tackle today is a Spoonful of Whiskey. We get this quest when we arrive at Marguerite's shack. Now, Marguerite's shack is guarded by a whole bunch of mutated swamp people. There's no interesting loot outside this shack, so once the swamp folk are dead, we can open the door to Marguerite's shack. Inside, we see a big pile of empty whiskey bottles lying next to a bed upon which sits a sickly-looking woman.
You ain't have the look of a local young lady. Think you could help a sick woman get on the mend?
You're sick? What's the matter?
Reckon it's the orange fever. I do feel light in my head.
Orange fever? Oh boy, here we go.
Shouldn't tease somebody come down with orange fever, sweetie.
Oh yeah? Well, I plumb got myself that mauve plague. So let's just try not to cough on each other, okay?
Well, sweetie, if you ain't got sympathy in your heart, I think you need the old tonic as bad as me, even if you don't know it yet.
Oh really? Well, that sounds bad. Is there any way I can help?
Awful malady, I do swear. There's a tonic for it, but I reckon I'm not well enough to make it myself.
We can also pass a medicine check to say, I've treated enough illness to know that there's no such thing as orange fever.
Now that is just an awfully rude thing to say, sweetie.
Oh, well, in that case, I'm sorry. I guess I just haven't heard of that illness. Maybe I can help.
I reckon you can at that. I just need some help brewing up a little tonic.
Or we can pass a speech check to say, you're faking. We both know it, so let's cut to the chase.
Oh, fine, maybe you're no hog's fool, but I reckon we both come out better if you can help me cook up some tonic.
Well, let's talk about this tonic.
Secret family technique. Been so for generations. Help me brew some up by gathering ingredients. I'll share the batch to make it worth your while and sweeten the deal with 300 caps.
All right. Well, first, tell me more about yourself.
Why, I'm just folk. What more is there?
What do you think of Point Lookout?
Things aren't wonderful, but I reckon it's hard all around. My family's lived here about since, well before the war, and I reckon we'll be here a long time yet.
Why did you fake being sick?
Here, I thought you were a quick one. Look, sweetie, I reckon you'd have shot me as soon as you walked in here if you weren't a kind soul. Or at least an enterprising type.
What is this stuff, anyway?
Tell you what, have a bit. This is left over from an old batch, but should be a swig or two there. More'n enough to loosen you up, I'll wager.
She gives us a sample of Moonshine, a new consumable item with Point Lookout. We find bottles of Moonshine all over Point Lookout, and it's the strongest alcohol in the entire game. It has a 10% addiction rate like whiskey, but it doubles the special bonuses and penalties upon drinking it. It gives us +2 charisma, +2 strength at the cost of 2 intelligence. It's also one of the most valuable alcohols in the game. Each bottle can be sold for 50 caps. Well, Marguerite, that's fascinating, but I'm not interested right now. Sorry.
That's a righteous shame. But the offer stands. You just say the word, hon.
Well, all right, I'll bite. What do you need?
This and that. Let me know when you want to work out the details.
And with that, we begin the quest, A Spoonful of Whiskey. I'm ready, Marguerite. Let me know what you need for your tonic.
There aren't too many ingredients, but I brew large batches, so we need a good bit of each. We'll need punga fruit, yeast, and some fishing batteries for that extra little kick.
We need punga fruit?
Punga fruit, and lots of it. The stuff those loonies make at the church is best. 10 of those will do, but might cost you. Wild fruit will do the trick, but you'll need twice as much of it.
Did you mention yeast?
Well, we'll need yeast. You can find it about anywhere, but there's a big stash on the boardwalk. 3 sacks is enough.
Batteries? For extra kick?
You best keep this one to yourself, sweetie. The family tonic gets real kick from our secret ingredient. We need just a little bit of battery acid. Oh, don't look like that now. You reckon I'd be around to tell you about it if it weren't safe enough? Bring me 6 fishing batteries and I'll scrape 'em into the mix.
I couldn't help but notice as I entered that you have a still sitting in your house. Did you build it yourself?
That old thing's been in my family for years and years. Well before the bombs, there was a time folks couldn't get no tonic by law, and my family did okay helping them get what they needed.
Well, I noticed that it's in poor condition. Your still could stand to be fixed up.
Could it now? I suppose you'd know how to see to that, wouldn't you?
We have a number of options here. We can say, I can fix it up. Let's call it 100 caps of work.
I reckon I can scrape that together. Go ahead and do what you can for it.
Or we can pass a speech check to say, I'll get it working like new, but I want 200 caps.
I reckon you got a deal, sweetie. But I better notice a difference in the tonic.
Or we can do it for karma only and say, yeah, I can fix it. No charge.
Aren't you a smart one? Sweeter tonic's better for both of us, after all.
With that, we can walk into Marguerite's kitchen to fix her moonshine still. Disturbingly, we see a lot of blood all over the ground beneath the still. Upon activating it, we learned that the old moonshine still has several loose fittings and some corrosion, but could be repaired with sufficient skill. We can pass a repair check of 44 to perform the needed repairs.
My, look at you. Thanks for mending the still, sweetie. For this fee, the tonic had better taste like honey, though.
This should be an easy skill check to pass, even if we haven't spec'd into repair, due to the workman's coveralls we find all over Point Lookout, which increase our repair skill by 10. And now, we need to go drum up the ingredients for Marguerite's Moonshine. By this time in our exploration of Point Lookout, we should have all of the ingredients on our inventory, unless we chose not to loot them because we didn't want to lug around all that weight, in which case we need to head back to many of the places we've previously explored to find them all again. Now, the punga fruit's an easy one. We just head on over to the Arkandov Cathedral, where we can choose to pick either the wild punga fruit or the much more healthy-looking punga fruit plants. Each time we pick a punga fruit plant, we loot 3 refined punga fruits. In this way, we will quickly get the 10 refined fruit that we need. Now, we could waste a bunch of time looking for yeast and fission batteries all over the place, but it just so happens that we have the exact number of everything we need in Desmond's panic room at Calvert Mansion, and we don't have access to this panic room until we've gotten far enough along in the primary quest of the DLC. But once we have, we can go into the panic room to find all the fission batteries and bags of yeast that we need for this quest. When done, we can head back to Marguerite's shack and talk to Marguerite. Hey, is this enough punga fruit for you?
I see you sprung for the refined fruit. Good for you, sweetie.
I've got the yeast with me.
I see. Thank you kindly for these.
And here's the batteries.
I thought so. Those things do carry a smell, don't they? Let me take them off your hands then.
All right, so what's the status on the tonic?
Brewing low and slow, sweetie. Process takes about a day. Why don't you come back in a piece?
Aw, a day. All right. I just got to get me some of this moonshine, so stepping outside and waiting for 24 hours, we can head back in to see if the brew is cooked.
Good thing, sweetie. Tonic's brewed and bottled. Here's your pay and a cut of the batch. Enjoy it.
With that, we complete a spoonful of whiskey, and we get 6 bottles of moonshine and 300 caps. Hey, this stuff is great, Marguerite. Can we make another batch of tonic?
You're an eager one, ain't you? I have to let the still air out a few days between brews. Check back with me later.
Oh, all right, I'll be going.
Don't be a stranger now.
We can now come back to Marguerite every day or so to make up another batch of moonshine. With that, we've gotten to know Plik and Marguerite, explored her shack and the coastal grotto, but there is still so much more to Point Lookout. In our upcoming episodes, we will discover a pre-war nuclear submarine, explore a pre-war concentration camp, and discover something rather horrifying at the ritual site. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of these games, but this week I'm focusing on the Point Lookout DLC for Fallout 3. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next episode in this series, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. That's where I make any announcements regarding my channel. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.